All right, let's look at how to solve by factoring completely. We've got this equation right here. We're being asked to solve it, which means we need to find our zeros, our roots, and we're going to do that through factoring it completely. All right, so in order to factor it, we want to set this equal to 0. So step one is we got to get rid of this 10x on the right side, and we got to make this look like equals 0. So how would I get rid of 10x? We use inverse operations. The opposite of a positive 10x is subtracting 10x or negative 10x. Those will cancel, leaving you with nothing over here on the right side, which is our goal to start this problem. Okay, now if I take away 10x on the right side, I also need to remove 10x from the left side, but this term is not like this term, which is not like that term. We got x cubed, x squared, and then just x. So none of these are like terms, meaning we can't combine them. So I'm just gonna write down 1, 2, 3 terms on the left side. That'd be a 2x cubed plus an 8x squared, and then minus 10x right here. Okay, so now that you have the equation set up equal to 0, we can factor out a GCF, greatest common factor. I'm looking at these numbers 2, 8, and 10, and the first thing that pops into my mind is they're all divisible by 2. The other thing they have in common is each one of these 3 terms has at least 1x. So our GCF that we're going to factor out, I'm going to put parentheses down because I know I'm going to have 1, 2, 3 terms here, but I'm going to be multiplying something by all 3 of them. So I'm factoring out 2 because that's divisible by 2, that's divisible by 2, that's divisible by 2. That's the greatest common factor, but we also need to include x because x could attach to a term here to make x cubed. The x could multiply to a term there to make x squared, and then the x can multiply by a constant to make an x term at the end. So now what we got to do is we got to figure out what are the 3 values and terms that need to go inside my parentheses. This is still equal to 0. We've just pulled out the GCF. Okay, so now 2x times something would make 2x cubed. Well, what would that something be? It'd be x squared. 2x times x squared, the 2 and the hidden 1 would make the 3. Now 2 times what makes 8? Well, that's 4. We've got 1x, but we need 2 x's. So 2x times 4x would make x squared. And then last but not least, negative 10x. 2x times negative 5 makes negative 10x. Okay, so we have now factored out the GCF. It's time for us to look and focus on the inside of the parentheses, inside the grouping symbols. We've got x squared plus 4x minus 5. Okay, remember, we want to think about, is there a way that 2 numbers that can multiply together to make a negative 5, but would add together to make a positive 4? Okay, what would those 2 numbers be? They multiply together to make a negative 5, but when you add them together, it makes a positive 4. If we multiply the number times a number, we get negative 5. But those same 2 numbers added together would give you 4. Well, wouldn't that be a 5 times a negative 1? 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. 5 plus negative 1 makes 4. So what we found here is that we can separate the trinomial 1, 2, 3 terms, and we can factor it into 2 binomials. Because x squared is the front, we know that's an x, we know that's an x. Okay, that's something we should know when we're factoring these trinomials out. Now we're going to take these 2 empty spaces here, and those are the numbers we're going to want to be using. So we're going to say x plus 5, because my 5 was positive. We're going to be saying x minus 1, because my 1 was negative. And don't forget, remember, we pulled 2x out earlier, so it's still there. Now this is saying 2x times all of this times all of this equals 0. So why did we set it equals 0 in the first place? What was the whole reason for setting it equal to 0? Because now we can use what's called the 0 product rule. The 0 product rule makes sense to most people, right? Something times something makes 0. What do we know about one of these 2 values? One of them has to be a 0, okay? So if we're going to multiply 2x times this times this and get 0, either that's a 0, that's a 0, or that's a 0. So there's going to be 3 roots to this equation. There's going to be 3 zeros to this equation. So I'm going to say 2x equals 0. That could be the part that's a 0. X plus 5 could be the part that makes 0. X plus 5 could be the 0. Or x minus 1 could be my 0. So I have 3 possibilities of getting 0 for y when plugging in certain values for x. Now, what are those 3 values for x that I'm looking for? Solve each of the 3 equations that you have at the end, and you'll know your 3 roots. Divide by 2, divide by 2, x could be 0. X could be negative 5. Or x could be 1. Here are our 3 roots, solutions to our original equation. Now you can go back through, plug these numbers in just to double check it. If I put a 1 in, 1 cubed makes 1 times 2, plus 1 squared makes 1 times 8. So really just 2 plus 8. And then a negative 10 times a 1 makes negative 10. So basically this is going to turn into 2 plus 8 minus 10 equals 0, which is true. That's why it checks out and it's one of our solutions. Okay, I'll show you what that looks like here real quick just to make sure you understand the end of it. Okay, so we already kind of mentally checked 1, but if you want to check and make sure negative 5 is correct, just go back to the original equation. 2x cubed plus 8x squared minus 10x equals 0. Change all your x's to negative 5. So I could just erase and replace or just rewrite underneath. 2 to negative 5 cubed plus 8 times negative 5 squared minus 10 times negative 5 equals 0. And when we're done cleaning up the left side, it should be equivalent to 0. Well, negative 5 cubed. Negative 5 times negative 5 is 25, but then 25 times a negative 5 makes a negative 125. And then we're going to have to multiply that times 2. Negative 5 squared means negative 5 times negative 5, which is positive 25. So now we got plus 8 times 25. And then a negative 10 times a negative 5 is a positive, because a negative times a negative is a positive. 10 times 5 is 50. So we're starting to clean this up. We're just going to keep on working our way down to the end. A negative 125 times 2, well, that'll make a negative. And 125 2 times is 250. 8 times 25. Well, let's use some number sense. How many 25s does it take to make 100? 4. So if we've got 8 25s, that's just going to be not 100, but 200. And then last but not least, we have plus 50 equals 0. Negative 250 plus 250 equals 0. And this checks out, so we know that this solution is also accurate. So we're good here, and then you can plug 0 in at the end and double check and make sure that one works as well. But this is how we would solve an equation like this one that was originally given, set it equal to 0, and start factoring all the way out, and you'll get your 3 roots by the end. Hopefully this makes sense. Study hard, and good luck on your upcoming test.